Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing really well. Today I thought I would film a little bit of a different video for you guys. This one is, as you may be able to tell by the title, it's something slightly different to what I'm used to filming. This is my 10 things that I've kind of learned this year, and you know, it's kind of taught me a lot of stuff. It's 10 tips on caring for a loved one with cancer. Very earlier on this year, so right after Christmas, right at the beginning of January, my dad got diagnosed with cancer of the throat. He had a rare cancer in the voice box. It's one that's not common, and then he also ended up having it spread to the lymph nodes on both sides as well. So what I learnt this year was quite a lot of stuff, and you know, about cancer in general, which is something I never thought I'd end up having to deal with at all. But also I've learnt a few things along the way on how to make things a little bit easier for that loved one, and for yourselves as well. So first off, I'm not going to beat around the bush, I'm just going to go ahead and get started. My first tip is to have patience and learn to be patient. When somebody gets diagnosed with cancer, when somebody's going through cancer, the one thing that you have to do is to remember to be patient with them, be patient with the whole process. The process is extremely long. For those of you who have already dealt with cancer, hats off to you, because it is absolutely horrendous trying to deal with the whole hospital appointments that are never ending, and trying to, you know, help that person who's feeling really crappy because of the treatment, or just because they're generally not feeling well because of where the cancer is. For my dad, he definitely found it a struggle, and you know, eventually you did notice a different a decline in his mood. He was getting very agitated very quickly, very angry, very unhappy, and really down in the dumps. One thing that I did learn is to be patient, because if I'm not patient with him, then there's no hope, you know, that he's gonna, you know, become a little bit more positive. So as stressful as it can be, having to deal with all of the stuff that goes along with cancer, that goes hand in hand with cancer, patience is definitely the main thing I think should be a priority. Because if you're not patient with the whole process, then it's quite easy to kind of just feel overwhelmed with everything, to feel, you know, fed up, feel like you don't want to try, and feel like you don't want to fight this horrible disease. But patience for me is something that I've never been really good at, but this year I've absolutely, you know, taken it on board, and having the patience, I think, has definitely had a massive impact on my dad, in terms of he doesn't feel like he's alone. I've been patient in terms of his mood. I've taken him to loads and loads of appointments this year, and trust me, it is stressful. If you are somebody who is just about to start going through this, it is hard on the person who's having to help, or not having to help, but it's hard on the person who's helping as well and caring for that person. So patience is key. So if you're struggling with cancer and you feel like, you know, you're feeling a bit fed up with maybe people around you, have patience with them, because the chances are they're probably struggling a little bit themselves, in terms of feeling a little bit overwhelmed with everything. But being their support system will mean the world to them, because it means that they feel like they're not alone and battling this horrible disease by themselves. So for me, being a support system for my dad, I think definitely meant a lot to him, and he's definitely shown that he appreciates how much I was there for him, and I am there for him. It's one thing that I feel is, you know, really easy to do, is to kind of just forget about the side of things, about the fact that they're actually related to you as such, or you're caring for them, you're close to them. It's quite easy to kind of just be like, oh my god, this is happening, that's happening, what are we going to do now? I find that just being the support that they need, whether they're happy, whether they're sad, whether they're feeling down, whether they're angry, whether they're, you know, on top of the world, cancer is a roller coaster, and there's so many emotions that come along with it. If you don't have that support system in place, then it's ultimately going to be a little bit harder for you, and for everybody around you as well. If you have cancer, or you're going through it, or you've just completed treatment for it, you know, having somebody there just to support you, and even if they're just sat there in silence, you know, it can mean a lot. It can make a huge difference to a really shitty day. Third tip, and this is crucial, is don't be a worrier, be a warrior. If you're sat there worrying about everything that's going on, if you're worrying about how this person's going to react to the treatment, if you're worrying about their diagnosis, are they going to, you know, it's hard. It is hard, and it's hard to not worry about, are they still going to be with me this Christmas? Are they still going to be here for their birthday? Are they going to, you know, see me grow up? Sorry, I wasn't actually going to get emotional for this video. Oh my gosh. You need to, as hard as it is to put the emotions aside about worrying, don't let on to the person who is dealing with the actual cancer. Don't let on that you're worrying, because actually the chances are that you're going to make them worry twice as much. They're going to be worried about what's going to happen to them. They're going to be worried about the treatment. They're going to be worried about, are they putting too much pressure on you? Are they, you know, expecting too much of you? So the key thing is don't worry, but just keep fighting. Be a warrior. Keep fighting through. If you're really worried, don't show to the other person that you are worried. Leave it until you're not around them. Do everything you can in your power to support them, be there for them, be optimistic, be positive, because the more that you do that, the easier they will find this whole situation. That you allow not just yourself, but give them some space too. As much as it's great to have a support system in place, and it's great to have somebody supporting a loved one, it can also be a bit overbearing for not just you, but them as well. And one thing that we always made sure that I did, I guess, is I always gave my dad the option. I kind of set it so that he knew which days I would be down. He knew which days I wouldn't be down, because that way he knew that I wasn't, you know, I wasn't there in his face 24/7. And because I wasn't there 24/7, it didn't keep giving him that reminder that actually he's ill. He has cancer. He is tired and exhausted. He actually just had himself, you know, he had time for himself. He could do what he wanted. He could sleep, he could go out, he could do a little bit of everything. It did get harder as his treatment started, as he got sicker, but making sure that you allow them the time as well, and give them the option. Do they want you to come down? Do they want you to be around today? Do they want you to give them a bit of a break? Because if they've got the option as well, it also gives them that element of being in control of everything that's going on. If you're kind of just saying, right, I'm going to be down today, I'm going to stay here all day with you, you know, sometimes it can be a little bit too much, and definitely overpowering. For me, myself, I've always been a loner, and so I understand that actually, you know, if you've been independent and on your own for so long, the last thing you want is to feel like you're being mothered, I guess. I would definitely say this one's kind of a crucial one in terms of appointments, and everything can be really overwhelming, especially if you've already got the diagnosis of cancer. It can be overwhelming to then have to take a look at all your appointments and see that you've got about 60 appointments, including your treatment and everything as well. For my dad, a couple of days after he got diagnosed, he literally ended up with so much posts through the letterbox with all these different appointments, and he took one look at it and was just like, I can't do this, this is too overwhelming. So one thing that I took on board, I took all of his appointments, I put them in certain order so that we knew which ones were first, we knew which ones were which week, I knew which hospital he had to be in for which appointment, and then what I did is I made a diary of it myself. And we went and used it as a week-by-week planner, as opposed to saying, okay, you've got 6 weeks worth of radiotherapy there, and then you've got 6 weeks worth of chemo there, and you have all of these appointments to go on, and you have to not only go with those ones, but then you need to go and have the feeding tube fitted, you need to go and have your Macmillan meetings, you need to go and have your meetings with your consultant and everything else. So that can definitely be overwhelming and daunting, and trust me, when you see the letters come through the post, I totally sympathise with him, because when I saw them, I felt heartbroken for him. So what I did is I took all of his appointments and I made sure that I kept on top of them. I was totally organised, and then that way he knew what he was doing. Like I said, we did it a week by week thing, so he knew where he was going on which day. It meant that we could take the time to really arrange travel arrangements, arranging what time we needed to be at a certain place, what time we needed to leave, and that way it just made the whole thing a lot smoother because we didn't have to worry about my dad's cancer, where it is anyway, because it was in the throat and in the voice box and in the lymph nodes in the throat. One thing that he did end up with was, obviously he already had the sore throat and everything before the diagnosis, but he ended up with you know, he couldn't really talk that much once he'd started his treatment. He couldn't really speak at all. He had dry mouth, he had bad cough, everything was swollen and, you know, twice the size. It was raw. He had blisters all over his neck. And one thing that I did for him to just ease things up again is to take on board sort of the admin side of things completely. So I took on all of the admin side of things in terms of phone calls. One thing that you don't realise, I guess, when you or someone you care about is diagnosed with cancer, is there's a lot of logistics to it as well. There's a lot of paperwork that needs to be done. There's a lot of phone calls that need to be made and taken. And one thing that I did to, you know, take the stress away from my dad, which he was happy for me to do, is he told the hospital that anything that needed to be dealt with over the phone was to go through me. And he said to me as well, would I take on the phone calls and everything, because he struggles so much to talk that he couldn't really express anything anyway. He couldn't have a conversation on the phone. He could barely talk at all. So I basically ended up being his somewhat personal assistant in that sense as well, in terms of I took on all the paperwork. I had this one form, I'm not even kidding you guys, it was about 40 pages long. I had this one form that I had to fill out. It took me nearly 2 weeks to do, because it took me so many hours and so many tears to try and write it. It was extensive. But it definitely helped my dad when he didn't have to deal with any of that side. He only had to worry about going to the appointments and being there. Would definitely be to let them know that you are there 100%. You're there for them, whether you're physically there in person or whether you're not. You are there for them day and night. They can obviously, for my dad, he couldn't necessarily call me. He could text me, couldn't call me. But make that person aware that you are there for them no matter what time of the day it is. One thing I always told my dad is that he can get hold of me day, night, no matter what I'm doing. I will drop it and I will be down for him if he needs anything at all. And I think for him, just knowing that he had me there was, you know, it helps him, because he doesn't feel like he's alone going through this. I have been solely caring for my dad, and in terms of the cancer and everything, I haven't had that support system around me. But as long as you make them aware that you're there, then, you know, that is all they need. It's just they need to know that somebody is there for them to help them through. One thing that helped my dad definitely is when he was having a good day, which got less and less as things went on and as things progressed. When he was having the good days, I would make sure that he went out, in terms of I would take him out, because it did get to the point where he was unable to walk. You know, he couldn't even make it as far as walking from his living room to the bathroom. That is how much of a struggle it became. But on his good days, I did make sure that I would take him out. Most of the time it would only be for about half an hour, because he just couldn't cope with being out. But if he was having a good day, or if he was having a good time, I would say to him, shall we go out? And I would take him out. If you take them out, it just makes them feel like they haven't lost all independence. It just gives them the chance to really be a normal person again. And it means that they get the opportunity. Although my dad couldn't socialise that much, he had a lot of friends who would come and see him and just make sure he was okay if we went out, because we would only go local. So for him, just giving him that element of independence, even though he can't physically walk where he would like to go, I would take him out and I would take him back home. Just gives him that little bit of freedom in terms of feeling like so that he doesn't get to feel like he's trapped indoors with this really shitty diagnosis and feeling really shitty, because it gives him the chance to get out, just be a normal human being, just for half an hour, just for an hour a day. You know, like I said, it did get less and less as the treatment went on and as the cancer progressed, because it was just so much of an issue for him to be able to physically move. One thing that I never did was ask for help, and I should have asked for help. If you take everything on yourself, it's very difficult for me because I don't really have anybody here to support me. And my dad doesn't have anybody else to support him either. You know, unfortunately, things that have happened in the past between him and my brother have meant that they don't speak to each other anymore, and things that have happened with my mum and my stepdad and my real dad means that they don't speak to him either. It's totally understandable, but then it also means, unfortunately for me, that nobody that I live with, i.e. my mum, etc., nobody wants to hear anything about it. It means that I don't have that support system at home. So for me, I was taking everything on and, you know, loving the fact that I spent more time with my dad, but it just unfortunately meant that when I was coming home and I was exhausted, and sometimes you just want a really good cry, or sometimes you just want somebody to talk to, it just meant that I was coming home and just dealing with it myself and just having to, you know, just cope with it and just hope for the best and hope that, you know, everything gets better. And it's just, I think it kind of takes me back to the whole, like, don't worry thing and don't show them that you're worrying, but it is hard to come home and not worry, you know, about things yourself. But one thing that I wish I'd have had is a better support system around me, because I wish that I'd had somebody there to just ask if I was okay, instead of just, I guess, expecting me to just deal with it and to just, you know, I don't know, just, I think everybody just expected me to keep on smiling and just deal with it, and then when I was sad, I just had to stay quiet and, you know, and not let on to anybody that I was upset. I have got a fantastic manager, and she's been great the whole way through. She has been the only person that I've been able to talk to, but basically for me, going to work was getting out of my house, and it was getting on with my life in the sense that it meant, for me, for those 8.5 hours a day, that was my me time. That is my me time. That is what I do. I go to work and that's my me time, because it means that for 8.5 hours a day I'm focused solely on my work. I'm not focused on anything else that's happening in my outside life. It just means that I can go in and be a normal person again. So definitely make sure you have that support system in place too. Don't be afraid to kind of open up to people and tell them, actually, I don't feel okay. Because if you let it eat you up inside like I did, then it will come out one way or another, and it doesn't always come out in a good way. Tell them that you love them every single day. Make it count, make it worthwhile, because at the end of the day, like I said, I think I said back in the earlier bit of the video, I never spent a lot of time with my dad up until this year, sort of. I knew that he wasn't feeling very well in December, and in my heart of hearts, I had a feeling it was going to be cancer, just by the symptoms that he was getting, but we didn't know. He didn't have the diagnosis. But since December, me and my dad have grown a lot closer, and for that I'm so thankful, because we've been in it together, and he knows that we're in it together, and he knows that I'm there for him no matter what happens now. We just have to take one day as it goes, and, you know, at some point, then when things get worse, we'll face that together as well. And I think the fact that we're in it together, he knows how much I love him. I tell him I love him every day. I ring him every day. Now that he can talk a little bit better now that he's done with the treatment. The radiotherapy really did affect his speech. His speech is still very bad in terms of the throat. It's very raspy. He can't really talk. And when he does talk, he tends to start coughing non-stop. So for me, it's still very difficult to have a conversation with him over the phone, but I ring him every day anyway and tell him that I love him, because I don't want to regret anything, and I don't want anything to happen and I look back and say I should have done more, or I should have told him I loved him more. Even though he knows, and I know he knows that I love him, I don't want to get to that point where I say to myself, why didn't I tell him I loved him when I had the chance? So for me, tell that person you love them. Make sure that you're there for them 100% of the way. Don't be a burden to them, because actually the more you're a burden, the harder they will find the whole process. Just be there and just be positive and optimistic. And honestly, it's a really shitty situation to be in, whether you're caring for somebody or whether you're dealing with it yourself. It's a really shitty situation. But for my dad, one thing that I did, I tried to keep, especially when I'm around him, I always try to keep upbeat and positive and optimistic, because the more that I do that, the more optimistic and positive he is about the whole situation. He doesn't take it like a negative thing. I think the way that me and him have been looking at it at the moment is it's a positive thing. It's brought us a lot closer. We get on really well. I see him all the time, and that's one thing that I wish I could say I was seeing him all the time before the diagnosis. I wish I could say that, and I didn't, and for that I feel guilty. But I am making the most of the time that I have, and I think that is the most important thing that anybody can do. Just don't be a burden on them. Just be there for them. Be their support system. Be patient with them. Be happy when they're happy. If they're sad and you know you're sad, then be sad together. Be honest and open with each other as well about how each other's feeling, because if you don't, that's where friction starts to build up, and you guys will find that it becomes a bit more of a struggle, and it becomes harder to deal with because you're arguing with each other, or you're both feeling just as shitty but you're not being honest with yourselves and you're not being honest with each other. That's when the situation will get into a shitty situation. Well, a shittier situation, should I say. But that's going to be it for this video. I'm so sorry that I got a little bit emotional. I didn't want to get emotional during this video, and I don't know why I did. One thing I found is I haven't been able to kind of express my emotions that much this year. Like I said, I've had to keep a lot of it bottled up, especially when I'm at home. So for me, my emotions just kind of come out and get the better of me whenever they feel like it. I had a little bit of a tearful day at work yesterday, and I don't know why. I just felt very tearful, and then I felt fine earlier, and then I just got a little bit tearful, and it's just one of those things. Cancer's a roller coaster and it sucks. But yeah, I just wanted to share this video. Like I said, it's because when I was trying to find some support, I guess, there was nothing out there, and I couldn't find anything on the internet in terms of help and things that people like. I couldn't find anybody who understood, and so I just wanted to post this video. But I hope you guys enjoyed it anyway, even though it was a bit of a crappy subject. Yeah. If you guys do want to start a discussion about anything that I've discussed in this video, or anything related to this topic, feel free to leave comments down in the comment section below. I do read all my comments as well, so I tend to do my best to reply to everybody. So I hope this video helps at least one person. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Let's see if we can get this video shared around and help more people who are struggling with the hell that is cancer. But yeah, that's it really. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will catch you guys in my next video. Take care. Bye.